My name is Maya Henderson. I'm 38 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is something I've kept buried for nearly 2 years. I didn't stay silent because I was weak. I stayed silent because the truth was too heavy, too humiliating, too destructive. And the person who destroyed my peace wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an enemy. It wasn't even my husband. It was my mother-in-law. Her name is Sylvia Carter, a woman Atlanta high society sees as charming, elegant, God-fearing, a woman who leads the church choir, donates to charity, quotes Bible verses every Sunday, and the woman who slowly, methodically tore my life apart. But what broke me the most wasn't Sylvia's cruelty. It was the fact that my husband, Jacob, let her. This is not a story about a petty argument between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. This is the story of how one woman waged a quiet war against me, and how the secret I uncovered, her secret, destroyed her perfect world. If you're listening, buckle up, because this story doesn't begin with drama. It begins with love. And sometimes love is the most dangerous place to start. I grew up on the south side of Atlanta. Nothing special, nothing glamorous, just a regular girl from a regular family with dreams that weren't big, but were warm. All I ever wanted was peace, a home, a family, someone who chose me every single day. When I met Jacob, I thought I had finally found that. We met at the small coffee shop in Inman Park where I worked as a barista. He wasn't loud or flashy. He was kind, steady, responsible. He'd order the same vanilla latte every morning and always leave a tip even when he couldn't afford it. He'd smile at me like I was the highlight of his day. And I believed him. At the time, I didn't know that Jacob was an only child, or that he had grown up with a single mother who controlled every detail of his life. I didn't know that Jacob's father had died when he was 8, and that Sylvia never remarried. I didn't know that in Sylvia's mind, Jacob didn't need a wife. He already had one. Her. But love makes you blind to warning signs. And I was very, very in love. Jacob introduced me to his mother 6 months after we started dating. That alone should have been a clue. He was terrified of how she'd react. Sylvia lived in Buckhead, in a house so perfect it felt like a museum. White walls, white carpets, crystal vases, portraits from generations of Carter family excellence. When she opened the door, she looked at me the way someone looks at a stain on their favorite dress. "Oh," she said, "so you're Maya." Not nice to meet you, not welcome, not even a smile that reached her eyes. Just judgment. We had dinner at her long mahogany table. She didn't ask about my job at the coffee shop. She didn't ask about my family. She didn't even pretend to care. Instead, she examined everything. My outfit, my posture, the way I spoke, the way I breathed, probably. At one point, she said, "Jacob always dated very polished girls before, ones with excellent families." She didn't need to say the rest. Jacob squeezed my hand under the table. He sensed my discomfort. But he never defended me. That was our first meal together, and it was only the beginning. As Jacob and I got more serious, Sylvia's hostility grew sharper, but always in that sweet Southern way. "Oh, honey, that dress is adorable, though maybe a bit young for you. Your job is cute, a nice little phase before something real. You grew up on the South Side? That must have been character building." It was always coated with sugar, always wrapped in a polite smile. That's how Southern women fight, with honey that tastes like poison. I survived it because Jacob promised me, "She'll grow to love you. She's just protective." Protective. That was one word for it. Obsessive was another. When Jacob proposed, I cried from happiness. But Sylvia? She didn't smile. She didn't hug me. She didn't even pretend. She simply said, "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order." Then she walked away. That night, when Jacob fell asleep, I cried quietly beside him, not because of Sylvia, but because for the first time, I realized something terrifying. Sylvia didn't just dislike me. She saw me as a threat, and she was about to go to war. If I thought Sylvia's comments were bad before, I wasn't prepared for what came next. She inserted herself into every step. Venue, colors, flowers, seating charts, guest lists, food, dress codes. She wasn't planning our wedding. She was planning hers. At one point she said, "This family has a reputation to maintain. We can't let people think Jacob married beneath him." I stood in the bathroom that night, staring at myself in the mirror, wondering what I had done wrong. The answer was nothing. Sylvia's problem wasn't who I was. Her problem was who I wasn't. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't from a prestigious family. I wasn't someone she could control. And that made me dangerous. 2 weeks before the wedding, Sylvia invited her friends, Buckhead's elite, to a brunch, and she invited me. I didn't want to go, but Jacob begged me to be nice. So I went. Sylvia introduced me to every woman with the same bright, fake smile. "This is Maya, Jacob's fiance. She's a barista, right now." Right now. As if it was temporary, as if it was embarrassing. Her friends smiled politely. One of them whispered, "At least she's pretty, right?" And they all giggled. I excused myself and cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes. When I came out, Sylvia was waiting. She placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "This world is hard for girls like you. Don't take it personally, dear. Girls like me." That was the moment I finally understood. Sylvia didn't think I was good enough for her son, but she hadn't shown me the lengths she'd go to prove it. Marriage was supposed to feel like a fresh start, like the beginning of a beautiful chapter. For us, it felt like the beginning of surveillance. Sylvia visited every single week, sometimes announced, often unannounced. She always had a reason. "Just checking on my boy. I was in the area. Thought I'd bring you something." Every visit felt like an inspection. She'd run her fingers along the furniture to check for dust, open cabinets without asking, peek into the laundry room, sniff the towels. It was suffocating. But the worst part, Jacob didn't see it. To him, she was just being helpful. To me, she was studying me, looking for weakness. And she found plenty. One evening, Sylvia invited us to her house for dinner. I offered to help cook or set the table. She laughed. "Sweetheart, you rest. Cooking for small families doesn't prepare you for a Carter meal." I froze. Jacob didn't say a word. Dinner was worse. She served ribeye steaks, Jacob's favorite, but hers looked different. Thicker, better seasoning, better cut. Mine was thin, overcooked, a cheap cut from a different tray. She did it in front of everyone, and she didn't hide it. "I wasn't sure if Maya likes heavy meat," Sylvia said innocently. Jacob laughed. I swallowed my pride, my humiliation, my anger. At the end of the night, Sylvia hugged Jacob tightly and shook my hand, a handshake, like I was a guest at her charity event, not her son's wife. After dinner, Sylvia's visits increased. She came early in the mornings, late at night, depending on her mood. Sometimes she'd bring groceries, but not for us, for Jacob. She'd say, "I know what my boy likes." Then she'd place all the expensive items on his side of the fridge. One day she caught me throwing away expired yogurt she had bought. She snatched it from the trash and said, "Don't waste food, dear. Your mother may not have taught you this, but Carter women don't throw things away." She weaponized every word, every glance, every sigh, and Jacob missed all of it. 3 months after the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. I cried from happiness. Jacob cried too, just softer. The first person he called? Sylvia. Before I even had time to breathe, she was at our door. She hugged Jacob, congratulated him, cried even. Then she turned to me and said, without smiling, "Well, I hope the baby takes after Jacob's side of the family." Her eye scanned my face, my skin, my hair, my body. "Genes can be tricky," she added. It wasn't a comment. It was a wound. Pregnancy should have been beautiful, but with Sylvia around, it felt like walking barefoot on glass. She questioned everything: the prenatal vitamins, my diet, my weight gain, my doctor, my hospital preference. "She grew up differently," she said once. "Maybe you're not familiar with proper prenatal care." Translation: poor people don't know how to have babies. Jacob defended her. "He's just excited." No, She wasn't excited. She was invasive. One afternoon, Sylvia arrived with a large box wrapped in gold ribbon. She said, "This is a family heirloom," proudly. Inside was a hand-embroidered baby blanket. Beautiful, expensive, perfect. But in the bottom corner, stitched carefully, baby Carter. Not baby Henderson, not Emma, not even the baby. She intentionally used her last name, a silent declaration. "The baby is mine, not yours." I held back tears. Jacob didn't think it was a big deal. She didn't mean anything by it. But Sylvia did. She always did. My closest friends planned me a baby shower. Small, intimate, sweet. Sylvia took over in exactly 3 hours. She changed the venue, changed the guest list, changed the colors, changed the menu. She even changed the cake. She made it pink and gold with a huge inscription. "Welcome, baby Carter, Grandma's little angel." Not mine. Hers. Her guests congratulated her more than me. "I can't believe your boy is finally giving you a grandchild. You must be thrilled. You'll be such a wonderful grandmother." Meanwhile, people hugged me like I was the surrogate carrying Sylvia's baby. By the end of the event, I was shaking from stress. Jacob drove us home. I cried quietly the whole way. He kept saying, "Maya, she's just trying to help." No, helping doesn't feel like drowning. One evening when I was around 7 months pregnant, Sylvia arrived unannounced again. She walked straight into the nursery, no knocking, no asking. She looked around slowly. Then she said, "You painted the walls yellow?" That's, bold. Yellow was my favorite color, a soft, warm pastel, but she didn't care. She said, I already bought a full nursery set for the baby. Neutral, beige, tasteful, sophisticated. Maybe we can repaint." We. She meant I, of course. I finally snapped. "No, Sylvia, this is my baby's room, and this is my home." She went completely still. Then she smiled, cold tight. "Maya, I understand pregnancy hormones can make someone emotional, but remember your place." "My place?" I whispered. "Yes, a Carter wife knows her place, and a Carter child should be raised properly." I felt my pulse in my throat. She had crossed a line, but before I could respond, Jacob walked in, and Sylvia instantly switched personas. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, turning to him, "your wife is overwhelmed. The poor thing is stressed." Poor thing. Like I was weak, dramatic, unstable. Jacob believed her instantly. He didn't even ask what happened. Instead, he held my arm and said, "Maya, maybe you should calm down. Calm down." 2 words that burned more than Sylvia's insults. That night, I realized something horrifying. I wasn't just fighting Sylvia. I was fighting both of them, and I was losing. A month later, when Emma was born, Sylvia visited the hospital. She didn't hug me. She didn't congratulate me. She walked straight to the baby, studied her tiny face, and said, "She looks, different. Not like Jacob." The implication was loud, inescapable, poisonous. I felt my soul crack. That night, I cried harder than I ever had in my life. And I made myself a promise. This woman will not raise my child. This woman will not run my home. And someday, she will regret everything she did to me. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I felt it. A storm was coming. And Sylvia had no idea it was aimed at her. After Emma was born, I naively thought things would get better. I believed Sylvia would soften when she became a grandmother. I hoped Jacob would finally see how she treated me. But I was wrong. The first month was peaceful only because Sylvia pretended. She acted helpful, brought meals, cleaned dishes, held the baby. But this was not kindness. It was positioning. It was control. By the time Emma was 6 weeks old, Sylvia was at our home more than Jacob was. And every visit, every comment, every sigh chipped away at me. She would say things like, "Poor Emma. She must be so tired. Maya, are you sure you know how to soothe her? Jacob, you were such an easy baby. Maya must be overwhelmed. I'll stay a little longer just to make sure everything is all right." Everything was for Emma's sake, but nothing was for my sake. I was a ghost in my own home. One morning, I was in the kitchen washing bottles. Sylvia came in, holding Emma. "Her diaper is too tight," she said disapprovingly. "Did you put this on her?" "No," I said calmly. "Jacob did during the night feeding." But she ignored me. When Jacob came downstairs, she immediately said, "Your wife is careless with the baby's needs. Look at this." Jacob didn't even ask my side. He touched Emma's diaper, frowned, and said, "Maya, you have to be more careful." I felt the air leave my lungs. Sylvia smirked behind him, just for a second. A small, triumphant smile. That tiny smile said everything. She was building a case against me, and Jacob was her witness. Late one night, around 11 p.m., I overheard Sylvia on speakerphone in the living room. Jacob was half asleep on the couch. Sylvia whispered, "Jacob, sweetie, I'm worried about Maya. She seems unstable. She cries a lot. She forgets things. It might be postpartum depression." My blood ran cold. I stood frozen behind the wall listening. Jacob said, "Mom, she is overwhelmed." Sylvia replied, "Well, overwhelmed mothers can be dangerous, Jacob, especially to newborns." That was not concern. That was character assassination. I felt my knees weaken. She was planting seeds. And Jacob, he was letting them grow. When Emma was 3 months old, she went through a normal, fussy feeding stage. Typical. Predictable. Every pediatrician would say so. But Sylvia turned it into a weapon. One day, she stormed into the living room holding Emma. "She's starving! Starving, Jacob! Look how she's crying!" "I just fed her," I said, exhausted. Sylvia turned to Jacob. "Your wife isn't producing enough milk. Maybe formula would help if Maya would stop being stubborn." Jacob looked at me. "Maya, maybe Mom is right." I felt dizzy. I was breastfeeding every 2 hours. I was exhausted, drained, sleep-deprived, and now accused of starving my child? I looked at Sylvia, and she smiled slightly again. She knew exactly what she was doing. That night, after Sylvia left, I confronted Jacob. "Jacob, you need to see what she's doing. She's manipulating you." Jacob's face hardened. "Don't talk about my mother like that." "Jacob, she's undermining me as a mother. You're emotional, Maya. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm emotional because your mother treats me like I'm incompetent." Jacob stood up, and then he said this sentence that killed something inside me. "Maybe she just knows better." Silence. Cold. Heavy. I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back. But he didn't. He believed it. He believed her more than his own wife. 2 days later, Sylvia visited again. She waited until Jacob left for work, then looked straight in my eyes and said, "You seem tired, Maya. Not thinking clearly. Not caring for Emma properly." My breath caught. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She leaned in, lowering her voice. "People talk. Doctors report concerns. It would be a shame if Child Protective Services had to get involved." My entire body cold. "Are you threatening me?" I whispered. Sylvia stepped back and smiled brightly. "Oh, honey, of course not. I'm just concerned for my granddaughter." Her wording was precise, calculated. She wanted me scared. And it worked. Every day, Jacob drifted farther from me. He came home later. He spent more time at his mother's house. He started questioning everything I did with Emma. Why is she crying? Did you feed her enough? Did you burp her properly? Why is she wearing that? Every question was a dig, a wound. Every question had Sylvia's voice behind it. I began to feel like a prisoner in my own home, a stranger in my marriage, a guest in my daughter's life. The breaking point came one Friday night. Sylvia came over to help. I went upstairs to shower, just 10 minutes. When I came back down, Sylvia and Jacob were whispering. Both looked at me like I'd walked into a crime scene. Jacob stood up. "Maya, Mom told me what happened." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" I asked. Jacob didn't blink. "You left Emma unattended in the crib, crying. For a long time." My eyes widened. That's not true. Sylvia crossed her arms. I timed it, dear. 8 minutes and 20 seconds. It was a lie. A complete, total lie. I had been gone 6 minutes. I checked the clock when I left and returned. But Sylvia had what she wanted. Doubt. Jacob looked at me, disappointed. Maya, I don't know what's happening with you. I felt something inside me crumble. Then Sylvia delivered the final blow. Jacob, maybe it would be best if Emma stayed with me for a few nights, just until Maya rests. I choked on my own breath. Jacob hesitated. That hesitation was worse than a slap. I felt my world tilt. My vision blurred. My voice broke as I whispered, Jacob, don't you dare. But Sylvia had him. She had him wrapped around her voice, her words, her manipulation. And I realized something devastating. In this house, I had no one. Not even my husband. That night, after they both went to sleep, I sat alone in the dark living room, holding Emma, crying silently. My tears fell on her tiny blanket. I stroked her soft hair and whispered, I won't let her take you. I won't let her win. I promise. And for the first time in months, my heartbreak ignited something else inside me. A spark, a whisper, a quiet rising fire. Because something in Sylvia's actions didn't make sense. Her level of hatred, her obsession with control, her desperation to push me out. It wasn't just dislike. It wasn't just jealousy. It wasn't just possessiveness. It felt like panic, fear. Like she was hiding something. And soon, I would find out exactly what that something was. And it would change everything. After that night, the night Jacob almost agreed to let Emma stay with Sylvia, something inside me snapped into clarity. Sylvia wasn't just a controlling mother. She wasn't just a manipulator. She wasn't just territorial. She was scared. Of me. Of what I might discover. And fear like that doesn't come from disliking someone. It comes from having something to lose. But what? I didn't know yet. But I knew where to start. 2 days later, Sylvia called Jacob and said she needed help fixing a broken cabinet. Of course she did. Jacob asked me to come with him. I said yes. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. When we arrived, Sylvia acted off. She stayed close to Jacob. Too close. Hovering over him like she needed to guard something. Jacob went to check the cabinet. I wandered into the living room under the excuse of warming a bottle for Emma. That's when I noticed it. A side table. Perfectly polished, with every drawer slightly open except one. The bottom drawer. Locked. Sylvia never locked anything in her house. That drawer called to me like a whisper. A warning. A secret. Later that night, when Jacob fell asleep beside me, I replayed the moment in my head. The locked drawer, the tension in Sylvia's shoulders, the way she watched me as I moved around her living room, like she was tracking every step I took. And then I remembered something strange. The photograph frame on her bookshelf. It showed Sylvia, Jacob, and a man I didn't recognize. Tall, handsome, smiling. But there was something off. The photo was too new. Jacob looked older in it than he should. And Sylvia had positioned the frame behind another picture, as if she didn't want it to be seen. I had only caught a glimpse because I dropped my keys and bent down. Why hide a family picture? Unless the man in the photo wasn't supposed to be there, or wasn't supposed to be alive. A chill ran down my spine. Jacob always told me, my dad died when I was 8. But in those photos, Jacob looked at least 16. The next morning, Jacob left early for work. While feeding Emma, a question invaded my mind. What if Sylvia lied about Jacob's father? And more importantly, why? I texted Jacob. Hey, do you have any pictures of your dad? I'd love to make a family wall in the nursery. He replied quickly, I don't think we have many. Mom got rid of everything after he passed. Got rid of everything. Everything. What kind of widower erases every photo of her husband? Unless she wasn't a widow. Unless something else happened. Something darker. Something she didn't want anyone to know. Later that afternoon, I had an idea. Sylvia worked at the same church community for 20 years. She sang, she organized charity events, she knew everyone. But church people talk, and sometimes they talk too much. I dialed the church office. Hi, this is Maya Carter. I was hoping to get some information for a family's scrapbook I'm making. The secretary, Miss Linda, recognized Sylvia's name immediately. Oh, honey, Sylvia's been part of this church longer than some of the walls. I forced a laugh. I was wondering, do you remember her husband? Silence. A long one. Finally, her husband? Yes, Jacob's father. More silence. Then Linda said, Sweetheart, Sylvia never had a husband. My pulse stopped. What? I whispered. She always told everyone she raised Jacob alone, said the father wasn't in the picture. My hands shook. Are you sure? Of course. Sylvia never mentioned a man, not once in 20 years. I hung up before my voice cracked. Jacob believed his father died. Sylvia told the world no father existed. Those two stories cannot be true at the same time. I wasn't just dealing with a controlling mother-in-law. I was dealing with a liar. And liars lie for a reason. That evening, while Jacob showered, I checked his childhood boxes in the closet. Most were normal. School drawings, old toys, a broken baseball glove, report cards. But one small envelope stood out. Inside were 5 photographs. 4 were innocent childhood pictures. The 5th one, it froze the air around me. It was a photograph of the same man I saw in Sylvia's house. Jacob was around 10. The man had his hand on Jacob's shoulder, and Sylvia was standing far behind them, not smiling, not touching them, as if she wanted no part in that moment. On the back of the photo, written in messy handwriting, Summer 2001-R. R. A name starting with R. Richard? Robert? Raymond? Why was this photo hidden? Why did Sylvia never mention this man? Who was R? 2 days later, Jacob left for a short business trip. Sylvia offered to help me while he was gone. I didn't want her there, but I needed answers, and I knew I wouldn't find them with her breathing down my neck. So, I did something I never imagined doing. I told her Emma was sick, so she'd stay away. Then, I drove straight to Sylvia's house. Heart pounding, hands shaking, fear and adrenaline fighting in my chest. When I reached her living room, I found the same side table, the same locked drawer. I knelt down, took a deep breath, and used Jacob's old master key, the only thing Sylvia didn't know he still had. The drawer clicked open. Inside was a stack of old letters, a faded journal, newspaper clippings, and a manila folder labeled RC, Incident Report, Confidential. My blood ran ice cold. My breath stopped. My heart hammered. RC. R. Carter? No. Jacob's last name. But the folder wasn't about Jacob. It was about someone else. Someone with the initials RC. Someone connected to Sylvia. Someone whose incident report she never wanted anyone to see. I opened the folder with shaking hands. The first page was a police report. A real one. Stamped, signed, official. The headline read, Domestic Incident. RC Age 39. Severe injury. Hospitalization required. My vision blurred. Sylvia's name appeared throughout the report. She wasn't the victim. She was the suspect. The words that followed made me weak. Altercation, blunt force trauma. Witness, minor child. Investigation closed due to lack of cooperation. Minor child. That could only be Jacob. Sylvia had been involved in a violent incident with a man named RC. A man who was severely injured. A man whose case mysteriously went away. A man Jacob believed was dead. And Sylvia? Sylvia had hidden everything. At the bottom of the folder was a final document. Short. Simple. Terrifying. Custody adjustment recommended. Child to remain with mother. Father prohibited from contact until notice further. Father. The man in the photos. The man Sylvia erased. The man she lied about. The man Jacob thought was dead. He was alive. And Sylvia had kept him away. For decades. To protect Jacob? Or to protect herself? I didn't know yet. But I knew this. Sylvia didn't hate me because of who I was. She hated me because she feared I'd uncover who she was. And I had just uncovered enough to destroy her. My hands were shaking as I held the folder. I felt like the walls of Sylvia's perfect Buckhead home were closing in on me. RC, the man in the photo, the man Jacob believed was dead. He wasn't dead. He'd been hurt. Badly. By Sylvia. She had destroyed him, and then erased him. And Jacob? Jacob had grown up believing a lie. A lie designed to keep him loyal, dependent, blind. I placed everything back exactly where I found it. Except for one thing. The photograph. The one with Jacob as a child, standing next to RC. I slipped it into my bag, not out of spite, out of necessity. Because I knew Sylvia would never tell the truth, so I had to. The entire drive home felt unreal. Emma slept in our car seat as if the world wasn't collapsing around us. Every red light felt like a lifetime. Every breath a reminder. This wasn't just my war anymore. It was Emma's, Jacob's, our family's. And Sylvia? Sylvia had been playing God for decades. When I finally pulled into our driveway, my heartbeat had settled into something steady. Cold. Determined. Unbreakable. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. Jacob returned from his trip 2 days later. He walked into the kitchen smiling, dropping his bag on the counter. "Hey, sweetheart, how was everything? Mom said she tried to visit, but..." "Jacob," I interrupted. "We need to talk." He froze. My tone wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. It was still and heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. "What's wrong?" he asked. Instead of answering, I placed the photograph on the kitchen table. He stared at it. His smile faded, his breathing changed, his eyes narrowed in confusion. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. I swallowed hard. "From your mother's house." He looked up sharply. "You went through her things?" "Jacob, look at the picture." He did. Really looked. His face went pale. This was after Dad died. I was 13 here. I took a breath. "Your father didn't die when you were 8. Jacob's head jerked up. "What are you talking about?" I opened the folder, placed the police report in front of him. "Your father didn't die. He was injured. Badly. In an incident involving your mother." His face collapsed. Emotion after emotion flickered across him. Confusion, denial, pain, fear. "Maya, no. No, my mother... She couldn't. She told me..." I pressed the final documents onto the table. "Jacob, she lied." He read every word. Slowly. Hands trembling. Breathing shallow. At one point, he whispered, I remember yelling. I remember crying. I remember Dad on the floor, but Mom told me it was a nightmare. I closed my eyes. Jacob, it wasn't a nightmare. He broke. Truly broke. He slammed his fist against the table. She lied to me, he yelled. For years. She took him from me. She made me think he was dead. Tears streamed down his face. Anguish, rage, betrayal. All the things I had felt, now he felt all at once. Then the doorbell rang. A soft, perfect chime, like God himself wanted dramatic timing. Jacob stiffened. We both knew who it was. Sylvia. She walked in without waiting for an invitation. As always. Oh, sweetie, I brought soup. You sounded tired on the phone earlier. She froze when she saw the folder. Her face drained of color. Her eyes darted to the photograph, then to Jacob, then to me. Maya, you don't know what you're doing. But I stepped aside. This wasn't my battle anymore. This was Jacob's. He stood up. Mama? He said quietly. So quietly it scared me. Did you lie about Dad? Sylvia didn't blink. Jacob, your memory is fragile. You were a child. He slammed the police report on the table. Don't lie to me again. Sylvia flinched. The first time I had ever seen actual fear in her eyes. Jacob, I did what I had to do. He stared at her. What did you do? Sylvia's lips trembled. He was leaving us, leaving you. He wanted custody. He said I wasn't a good mother. He said I was unstable. He took a deep, shuddering breath. I snapped. I didn't mean to hurt him that badly. It was an accident. A mistake. I was scared. I whispered. You were scared then. You're scared now. That's why you tried to take Emma from me. Sylvia turned to me, her voice cracking. I wasn't going to take her. I couldn't lose another child. Jacob's voice dropped to a whisper. You didn't lose a child, Mama. You took a father. Sylvia shook her head, tears streaming. Jacob, everything I did for you. But Jacob stepped back. No. Everything you did for yourself. For the first time in my life, I saw Sylvia break. Truly break. Her elegant facade shattered. Her pride crumbled. Her voice collapsed into a sob. Maya, please don't take Jacob from me. I looked at Jacob. You should ask him that, I said calmly. Jacob stared at his mother, the woman who raised him, lied to him, controlled him, used him, and finally saw her clearly. Mama, he said softly. She looked up, desperate. I love you, but I don't trust you. Sylvia's face fell apart. And if you ever threaten Maya again, if you ever try to undermine her as a mother, if you ever try to come between us, he took a deep breath. We're done. Sylvia collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Raw, broken wails. It was the first time she realized her control was gone, her power was gone, her lies were gone. She had lost. Sylvia didn't speak to us for months. Jacob started therapy. He reached out to find his father, found out he was alive, barely, but alive. They began talking slowly, cautiously. Emma turned into a bright, happy toddler, laughing, babbling, learning. And Jacob? Jacob apologized every day for not seeing, for not listening, for not believing me. I forgave him. Healing takes time. But Sylvia? She lives alone now. Quiet house, quiet life, quiet consequences. Sometimes she sends gifts for Emma. I put them in a box. Emma can decide someday what to do with them. I don't hate Sylvia, but I will never let her near my daughter again. Not unsupervised. Not ever. Sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who live inside our own homes. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from the people who claim to love us. And sometimes silence is how they win. But truth is how we take our lives back. I did, and I hope you do too.